This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
A beach party that got out of control and turned into one of the nation's most celebrated musical festivals. 35 years of the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival on this edition of inStudio.
On the snow-white shores of the Gulf of Mexico, at the Florida-Alabama line, lies a beachside honky-tonk where songwriters have gathered for more than 3 decades to tell their stories through the magic of song. It is a congregation of the human spirit, the bright lights of stardom traded for the warm glow of an intimate stage. Here, the songwriters come to be heard, and everyone else comes to listen. In the hallowed halls of the legendary Flora-Bama Lounge, their music lives forever.
That is a clip from an upcoming documentary entitled Stories in Rhyme, produced and directed by Lynn Rayburn. We'll show more clips from that documentary a little bit later in the program. For nearly 3.5 decades now, a honky-tonk that straddles the Florida-Alabama line has been the focal point of what has become a storied musical event, the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival. On this edition of inStudio, we'll find out how it all began. We'll look at what it has become and hear about some of the legendary participants. Our guests know the event well. Joe Gilchrist is the founder and president of the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival. Back in 1984, he was looking for a way to have some fun after the summer tourist season. So what started out as a little beach party has turned into a festival that showcases some of the great legends of songwriting, while also highlighting the new up-and-comers. Gilchrist is respected and admired within the songwriting community. Singer-songwriter Kim Carson called Joe the patron saint of songwriters. Jerry Salley is an accomplished writer and performer, finding success in country, bluegrass, and gospel music. His accolades are numerous, including being named 2003 CSAC Country Music Songwriter of the Year. And in 2019, he is a nominee to be inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. Several years back, Andy Haynes retired from a long and successful career in sales and marketing. But over time, he had become a big fan and a volunteer at the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival. So when the position of director opened up, the festival's board of directors saw an opportunity to put Haynes' business experience and passion to good work. He became the director of the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival in 2016. Peggy Butler is vice president of the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival Board of Directors, as well as serving on the festival's foundation. She is the widow of Grammy Award-winning producer Larry Butler, and in 2015 she launched the Larry Butler Memorial Music Fund at the University of West Florida. Thus far, the fund has raised $140,000 to help students pursue their dreams. Welcome to you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Joe, I'm going to begin with you. How the heck did you get this thing off the ground? What were you thinking?
Well, I'm not sure I was thinking too much. The idea of putting people that create music in front of people, we had a lot of songwriters at the Flora-Bama, so we just started meeting more and more characters, and we thought it was a way for us to show respect to Mr. Frank. So we did a thing at the Sanger Theater where we brought in people, and I lost 10 grand doing it. I thought, hey, I might as well be doing it out at the beach and having fun with it. So it went from a thing we did on Sunday afternoon to honor Mr. Frank Brown, all-night watchman, to where we filled up the weekend. There was another weekend, and now we're at 25 to 30 other locations in the area. And it's a way to bring over 200 singer-songwriters together. Some have had commercial success. Some are just starting out, but it's a way to show respect to the craft.
Let me ask you this. Tell us who Frank Brown was and why was he so important?
Mr. Frank was our night matron at the Flora-Bama, and he did a great job of keeping my musicians out of trouble and keeping other people out of trouble. He's a large man that usually went around with a badge and a couple of 6 guns, and so we were Flora-Bama was kind of like the Wild West back in 1978. So there's a picture of him, and he was just an amazing man. We all loved him. So this is a way I could show respect to him for all the things he had done for not just the rest of his life, but for a long time.
Jerry, you're a songwriter. When did you first get involved?
I think the first year I played was 1992. And that was the first year down here. I played a little place called the Barefoot Bar,
Okay.
over in Gulf Shores. It's no longer there. And then the next year, Joe was kind enough to invite me and Larry Cordle and Carl Jackson over to perform on a Sunday evening. And it's the first time I met Joe. And Joe, I think he's songwriter's best friend. That's what I would call Joe. We became friends, and that's one of the great things about this festival is the way you make relationships. I have friends here that I've been friends with now for 27 years that I keep in touch with all year long. And we have kind of a little family reunion every year in November when we get together.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the environment. What's the culture like around the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival?
Well, it's a lot of fun. It's an opportunity for us to kick back and show respect to each other. It's really kind of funny because Nashville is a small, large town.
Right.
The music community is small.
Right.
But because we're all so busy working, writing, performing most of the time out of town,
Right.
very seldom do we get to hang out with each other. And this is an opportunity for us to go support each other's shows. I remember the first time I met a gentleman named Rock Kilo was down here. And he had a little band called the Dixie Flyers. And I remember the first time I ever saw him was at the Flora-Bama. And you talk about becoming a huge fan. And he played a song that night called The House at the End of the Road. And I mean, I was in tears at the end of the night. And it's an opportunity to hear people you've never heard before, become fans of theirs, support your friends that you never get to go see and hear. And it's just a great time. They treat us so well here, and it's just a fun time.
Any of you ever get together and write a song together during this?
We have certainly done that more than once. More than once.
I can
We
imagine.
not only have written some songs, but we've had some guitar pulls that lasted into the wee hours.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Peggy, tell me about your involvement. When did you first get involved?
I don't really know. I mean, Larry being from Pensacola and knowing Joe, I would say probably in the late 80s.
Okay.
And it just kind of kept morphing to where it is in the relationship because I've always loved songwriters. Being with Larry, I was involved with every part of the business, but as a producer, when he won the Grammy for Producer of the Year, he thanked the songwriters for giving him the tools to work with because he felt very strongly, and he was a good writer, but he knew a hit song. I truly know that. And it was just, I guess, a natural progression, loving the beach, loving Pensacola, loving songwriters. It just happened. And I love everything about it. I've had more magical moments with this festival than any part of the music business. Yeah.
Andy, what about you? You started out basically as a volunteer, just kind of helping out for fun, huh?
I did. I began coming to the Songwriters Festival in the mid-90s. The mid-90s. Okay. And I moved to the area in 1999, and one of the first things I did was call Joe and say, how can I help? He said, become a volunteer. My wife and I did that year, and did so up until 2016 when I retired, and this position happened to come open. And I'll tell you, I've developed a love and a passion and a devotion to the music and to the people that I've met through this festival, and it's like very few other things in my lifetime, really. There's a lot of magic when in that main room at the Flora-Bama. You can just feel the air. I mean, it's really, really sensational. When it's indescribable. I look around the crowd and I see people with that guy wrote that. Oh my goodness, you know. I mean, it's just. Somebody asked me recently, said, "How do you judge the success of the festival?" It was in the course of writing a grant application, and they're looking for concrete. Sure. I said, by all the smiles I see on the songwriters' faces as well as the attendees. That's not the answer they were looking for, but that's how I feel about the festival.
And to that, Andy, I wanted to say Don Slitzer at the Gambler was one of the first people that came down to help me with the fund. And he now plays about 4 times a year in the main room. And he said, I don't ever want to play anywhere but the Grand Ole Opry, the Bluebird in Nashville, and the main room at the Flora-Bama. That's pretty strong. Yeah, so the magic's not just for the audience, it's for the players too. Don't you agree, Jerry?
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And you were talking about Larry being so supportive. He was one of the most incredible people that I've ever met. I didn't really know Larry that well when I started out in Nashville, but I got to know him so much better when I started coming down here and getting to know you all. And you talk about a supporter. He's the epitome of it all begins with a song.
Yeah, it really is. And later in the program, we've got a bit of a special segment that we're going to talk a little bit more about Larry and actually play some video clips. And so certainly make sure you stick around for that. What makes a great songwriter, Jerry?
Oh, geez. Why didn't you ask me an easy question? I don't know. You know, I teach a lot of workshops and so forth, and I think it's a God-given talent. I'm just going to be honest with you. I can teach rhyme scheme. I can teach structure, you know. There's a lot of things you can teach on how to put something together, but if it doesn't come from here, I mean, there's something that you have to be able to get from here and dig down so deep to make it relatable to everybody that hears it. I had some of the greatest teachers mentors when I was growing up, you know, and coming up through the ranks there in Nashville. And without their help, I wouldn't be sitting here and talking to you right now. So I've tried to give some of that back. But as far as what makes a great songwriter, it's someone who can relate, make you feel that they really did experience what they're writing. I've written so many songs. I love to write story songs. And I write a lot about songs that I did not have a personal experience with. You know, some people say, well, I can only write that if I experienced it. I believe a great songwriter can make you believe they lived the song if they never lived it. And that's just my personal opinion. Because I don't want to live some of the songs I've written about.
I can imagine.
But you know what, Jeff? Therein lies part of the beauty of the Songwriters Festival. To be in the room and be up close to these guys and to have Jerry to be able to accomplish what he just described to you, and for you to be able to experience that is really it's quite an experience. It's a beautiful thing.
Joe, who most influenced you early on when you first kind of started wading into the songwriting community?
Well, it goes back. I had a little bar called the Townhouse in Pensacola when I first came back from teaching in California, and I started meeting people that were creative, and all of a sudden it reawakened my appreciation of music. But getting back to songwriters, the crux of it is these are people that when they perform or when they write a song and you're listening to it, most people don't have the ability to express their emotions at that level.
Right.
So the cathartic deal is here's a person that makes you feel better about your ability to express yourself when they're doing it for you. You're helping, in essence, a person feel emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very valuable part of the songwriting experience.
You have to really be able to let yourself go, don't you?
I have virtually no creative talent, so my job is to bring characters together. And I do that.
Well, I'll throw that. I'll throw that at you, Jerry, and Peggy too. You just got to be able to open yourself up, don't you?
You do. I mean, there's a lot of my personal experience that does come out in these songs, or that do come out in these songs, but I don't necessarily want everybody to know exactly which pieces those are, because I have poetic license, so I can kind of change names and locations of certain situations. Right. But it's all about emotion. It really is. You want to make somebody feel something, whether you make them laugh, whether you make them cry. You want to create an emotion. And if you don't do that in your song, then you need to do something else.
Yeah. You probably saw a lot of that, Peggy, right?
Oh, yeah, I saw a lot of it. You know, I came from Roger Miller and Larry Butler and all these people in my living room. And I always said that the main room is kind of like what my living room used to be like. And I love that because I don't have to clean it up.
It's a lot better deal.
Less trouble.
That's right. That's right. We're having a great conversation here about the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival and also about songwriters in general and some of the characters who have been involved in it over the years. This is In Studio on WSRE Television, PBS for the Gulf Coast, and we're going to continue our conversation about the Songwriters Festival, which, by the way, will be celebrating 35 years this November. But right now, I want to show you another clip from an upcoming documentary about the festival, and it's produced and directed by Lynn Rayburn. The name of the film is Stories in Rhyme.
Woke up this morning, sun now shining in.
The songwriter is a rare breed.
Found my broken mind in a brown paper bag.
They know 3 chords on the guitar maybe, but in those 3 chords they can find a universe of expression. When you hear the songwriter sing the song, the person who wrote it, you're really hearing that song for the first time.
I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in.
And now you have something like a big songwriting festival at the Flora-Bama, and it's taking that message to the world and saying, here's how this music that you love is formed and crafted and created.
I was introduced to the Frank Brown Festival by Wayne Carson.
Give me a ticket for an aeroplane.
You need to go with me, so just grab you a bag.
Ain't got time to take a fast train. Long the day's gone, I'm coming home. My baby just wrote me a letter.
The fun thing for me was getting to meet all the people songs that I grew up on. I mean, songs that made me want to be a writer, made me want to sing.
Nothing on but the radio.
This place holds so much tradition. So many of the greats that came through here and played at this festival. And
the guru of this whole festival is a guy named Joe Gilchrist.
The idea was to bring as many eccentric characters as possible together and play music for them, see what the hell happened.
So, Joe, what the hell happened?
Sometimes you have to wait till the next day to figure out what happened. Now, it's my belief if you get an interesting enough group of characters together and mixing them with an interesting audience, and I always felt like our employees at the Flora-Bama were part of it too, and you stir it all up and you turn people loose, and it is amazing the high quality things you get to experience with people that have a chance to show their creative freedom, and I'm proud to encourage that.
Take a look at some of the guys that were playing on that: Hank Cochran, Dean Dillon, Mickey Newberry. I mean, wow.
Yeah, many people might not know that, but I first started hearing some of Mickey Newberry's songs back when I had the Townhouse in the early '70s. I was amazed. For him to come down here and be one of my best friends was amazing. Hank Cochran I met when he was on his boat just coming through the area, and Hank is a legend. That was the name of his boat, The Legend. He wrote #1 songs in 6 different decades. Started with Burl Ives. We wrote a song called "Little Bitty Tear Let Me Down." Had the face of a clown, made up not to make a frown, but a little bitty tear let me down. Oh, just beautiful emotions. And he had an 8th grade education, but he used the English language better than any PhD I ever met.
That's amazing. And then Dean Dillon in there. I mean, gosh, you think about, the George Strait songs, and, my favorite the Marina Del Rey song, love that,
I like that. I lived in Marina Del Rey at one time, and so when Dean first came down here, that was one of the songs that he had said he'd written. And of course, like most people, I had no idea who wrote what.
Right.
But it's a treasure trove of wonderful characters. She lived in Nashville more, Peggy did, so she was around more like those people. But we also had great writers down here. Ken Lambert, Jimmy Lewis, a lot of other people that came from this area. So it's been a wonderful experience just to encourage people whose art makes the world a better place.
Right. And we mentioned that earlier, the fact that not just the legends coming down to play, but also, the up-and-comers and even, I'll say this, I guess it's a little bit self-serving, but well, so be it. I know you have the youth showcase, and my daughter, who happens to be a singer-songwriter, played in that a couple of times, so that's really neat. Andy, talk a little bit more about how the festival is expanding out above and beyond just the legends, so to speak.
I'm happy to do that. Well, first of all, most of the icons of the music writing business the last half of the 20th century were part of the Songwriters Festival, and now we're nurturing, as you've observed, the young people that are coming along, and also the hot songwriters of this day and time. But for a number of years now, we have staged a youth showcase in Gulf Shores, and we're going to start doing it in Pensacola as well, where we invite young people to come in and play their original songs in front of their peers, and we have a panel of professional songwriters that critique their works, and then the winner gets a spot in the next year's Frank Brown Songwriters Festival. So that's really a good thing. We're also sending songwriters into schools on a year-round basis these days, and it's not just to go in and put on a show. It's to go in and teach the art and craft of songwriting, to hopefully stimulate the creativity on the part of the students, and hopefully that spills over into their other academic endeavors.
Right.
So, you alluded to the fact that we've been involved with Peggy, bless her heart. She does such an incredible job of keeping the memory of Larry alive and doing something good for the young people in the community at the same time. The Larry Butler Memorial Music Fund at the University of West Florida, where we've raised a good bit of money. That enables students to go to competitions all over the world. It's bought instruments. It's made additions, improvements to classrooms over there and studios on the campus. It provides lessons, music lessons for underprivileged kids. It's just a far-reaching thing that is really a big part of what we're trying to do to broaden our impact in the community.
Right, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in another segment, because I have some video of Larry, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that. But let me ask you another question. The festival has expanded out. I mean, we initially talked about it like being at the Flora-Bama and kind of around, maybe the Gulf Shores area. Talk about how it's expanded out to other venues and across the Gulf Coast.
Some people might say it's gotten out of hand. We'll be, from November the 7th through the 17th, we'll be in 31 venues from Fairhope, Alabama to downtown Pensacola and every point in between. And I would hasten to point out, we'll be in churches doing gospel concerts. Jerry's going to be doing a gospel concert in a church during the festival for us. We'll be in family-friendly restaurants. We'll be, yes, in bars. We'll be in art galleries. So there's all kind of opportunities for people to go and see, to witness firsthand the incredible world of songwriting in super friendly environments. I mean, there's nothing else like it that offers the variety of places that you can go, and in a lot of cases sit from me to you right here, that close to the songwriter, and listen to the stories and listen to the songs, and then in a lot of cases 6 months later you go, oh my God, I heard that at Songwriters Festival. It's a #1 hit.
That's right. Jerry, Andy's talking about like the different types of genres, so whether it be, like a country or gospel, and I know you write country, bluegrass, gospel. Is one more difficult to write than the other, or is just a good song a good song?
A good song's a good song. They're all difficult to write, it seems like. I mean, when you've done it as long as I have, and I still love to write. I don't get to do enough of it these days, it seems like. But when you get one, I call it the chill factor. It's when you get the little goosebumps. When you feel that, someone else is going to feel it too. But as far as the different genres, they're all. I'll be totally honest with you. Nothing's more aggravating than to have let's say a gospel songwriter come to me and say, "Man, I really want to write a bluegrass song." But they don't, and I'll say, well, what's your favorite bluegrass artist? Well, I don't really have one. Or what's your favorite bluegrass record? Well, I don't really have any. Well, maybe you need to know what you're writing about. You need to know your audience. Right. And you need to know that style of music. That's the difference in what I do. I use a lot of the same lyrics. I like to be conversational in my lyrics. But you have to know the different styles of music and the different styles of feels and that kind of thing. To be able to make a difference in the different genres. But one is no more difficult than the other. They're all, to get it right, you take your time. Somebody told me when I first came to Nashville that a great song isn't written, it's rewritten. And I've really taken that to heart. Now, there are times when God just throws it down so fast you can't write it fast enough, and it can end up being good. But most of the time I go back and look again and make sure that every single word, because one word can change everything in a line or a song.
I think Mickey Newberry, who was a great writer, he constantly rewrote. He felt like if he could take the song and make it clearer, or in many cases, he would take words or phrases out, because then it allowed the person listening to the song to maybe fill it in with their own emotional experiences. He was a genius at encouraging you as the listener to be, in essence, part of the song, because your personal emotions get involved in it too.
You know, when I interviewed Larry and we talked about it, and that was actually one of the things that he said in the interview, was to come back to keeping it simplistic. And I remember him saying and you tell us more, but I remember him saying something to the effect somebody gave him some advice early on, and you know, of course, he was an awesome piano player and everything.
He went to Nashville to be a session musician,
yeah.
And then all his buddies were writing songs, Curly Putman, Roger Miller, and all this. And he goes, "Well, I want to be a songwriter too." And so he went to Buddy Killen at Tree Publishing and said, "I want to be a songwriter." He goes, "Well, okay, write me a song." So Larry started writing songs, but everything he wrote was on the piano, which he basically had no limitations. So he was so overridden. So finally Buddy looked at him one day and said, "Do you play guitar?" He goes, "Barely." He goes, "Write the next song on guitar." And the next song he wrote on guitar was Cut, because it was...
Yeah, it gives you a whole different feel for, you know, when you write on different instruments, you know, it can really change things. Larry, one of the coolest things that I always remember about Larry was, and I think he might have put it in his For the Record book that he wrote. People would say, "What advice do you have for songwriters?" He'd say KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. You know, because it's hard. It is very difficult to write a simple, great song. It really is.
What do you use guitar when you write songs?
I mainly write guitar for bluegrass and country, but I also play piano a little bit, and a lot of my gospel songs I write on piano.
Joe, you ever think you could be a songwriter? You ever been around it long enough? You ever say,
I love words. Part of it takes a discipline. But it's basically it's basically the complexity of poetry interrelated with music, and not everybody has the skill to interrelate both the great poetry and the music. And that's what's so special about people that do, I think.
You're talking about it taking the discipline, and I know that's true. So, Jerry, do you like write every day? Do you sit down and go, I'm gonna write today, or does it just kind of come to you? How is it?
Well, for years and years and years. I mean, I started coming to this festival when I had coal black hair. That's the truth. But for years, I wrote for publishing companies, and I would literally go in and write. It was like a job. I remember Bob McDill, when I first came to Nashville, I read an interview he did. He said, "I treat it like a job. I come in at 9 o'clock, I leave at 5. Some days I stare at a blank piece of paper all day." But he said, if I write a great line, one great line, I've had a great day. And that's what made me realize I don't have to do this in a hurry. I can take my time and think about this. And but I am pretty disciplined. I still write 2 to 3 days a week, and but I have specific times set aside. Now that said, you never ever turn this off. I learned a long time ago, when I get a thought, there's this little area that you're in right before you go to sleep, where you get these ideas, and I learned a long time ago, you better get up and write those down when you get them, because they will be gone the next morning.
Do you dream songs?
I haven't ever dreamed a song, but I have dreamed things that are so real. Porter Wagner came to me one night, and it's just as real as me sitting here talking to you guys. So I've had musical dreams, but I've never really dreamed a song. So I wish I could.
One of the things I observed is that sometimes when a group of creative people get together and maybe having a beverage or two and you're sitting around, the exchange of ideas will lead to what they call a hook, or just a really strong idea. And sometimes if you're watching, they'll scurry off and make a little quick note about it so they can go back. But many times those little nuggets of wisdom just disappear. Poof.
That's why I said you can't turn it off. I mean, you are constantly hearing things people say or read or whatever, and you're making mental notes of those all the time, and you're writing them down or to keep them.
I still have a big stack of cocktail napkins, pieces of paper, everything, because that was before we had the phones always. Me and Larry got, write this down, and so I never left without a pen and a piece of paper.
Over the weekend, we had a show with some great songwriters from Nashville, and we were in a conversation with one of them, John Knight, who happens to have #1 song in America right now, and we were having a casual conversation prior to the show, and somebody said something, and John grabbed his phone and said, "I'll be right back," and he was over there, because it was a hook, you know. So there.
You talk about hook. I remember, and I'm paraphrasing, so I hope I get this somewhat right, but Mac Davis, wrote the song "Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me," and I remember seeing him on television or somewhere telling the story, something about, I guess he had written some songs, and the producer came back and said, "Mac, go write me something with a hook. Write me something with a hook," and he came back with "Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me" or whatever. So anyway.
By the way,
he will be here
Mac
this year.
Yeah, Mac's going to be at the festival this year.
Okay, I was going to lead you into that.
We're excited about that.
Tell us a little bit about that. Do you know the date he's playing? Or?
It's going to be Saturday night, November the 9th, in the main room at the Flora-Bama.
Okay, Mac Davis. Yeah.
Mac Davis will be up accompanied by Mike Loudermilk, who's J.D. Loudermilk's son.
Oh, wow.
J.D.
Okay.
was quite an accomplished songwriter who came to our festival over the years, at least one time I know. He's not with us anymore, but it'll be a great show. But you know what, Jeff? That's just one of many.
Oh, well, I know. It's
interesting that I was in Vegas many moons ago, back when I had a lot of money, or at the time. But anyway, I went to Mac Davis' show, and he had just written "It's So Hard to Be Humble."
Yeah.
And
Larry
You're
produced
Perfect in
that.
Every Way. Larry produced that?
Yeah.
I think he had just...
I ran into Mac a couple of years ago, and he said, "Peggy, everything that I've done in the music business, that's what I'm going to be remembered for." I said, "Well, at least you're going to be remembered."
That's right.
But wow, he wrote some great songs.
No
I mean,
kidding.
In the Ghetto, right?
Yeah, a number of Elvis.
Yeah, a number of Elvis
hits.
things, and I mean, just a bunch of great stuff. Anyway, so and of course he was a huge television star too back in the '70s. So wow.
Movies as well.
Movies, that's
North
right.
Dallas 40.
I'd forgotten about that. Wow, yeah, that's right, absolutely. We're having a fascinating and fun conversation here on inStudio on WSRE Television, PBS for the Gulf Coast, talking about the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival, and talking about the 35 years that it's been in existence. That's 35 years, 35th year of celebration coming up this November. Producer and director Lynn Rayburn is working on a documentary about the festival, and I want to play you another clip from his upcoming film entitled Stories in Rhyme.
Songwriting to me has always been a way for me to cope with living.
And on that plane back to Tennessee, my mind comes across her memory. Yesterday in Marina del Rey.
When somebody comes up and they go, "Your song changed my life," that's why I do it. It's like a calling.
I love my tribe of dreamers, and I love the people that come back year after year to this festival.
We couldn't wait to go to the house across the street over there, and there'd be 20 songwriters in there passing a guitar around, and you talk about magic.
My temperature is rising.
Songwriters in every room in the house, every bathroom, every bedroom.
I could have played it better, but boy, I was drunker than a skunk.
You would have had to have been there.
What it comes down to is music and the people that create the music. That's what's made it work and what's made it last.
The whole idea was just to have a good time, and we were pretty good at it.
Welcome to our clubhouse.
There's nothing like it on earth.
My baby just wrote me a letter.
All right.
Lynn Rayburn is the producer and director on that, and looks like that's going to be a whale of a documentary film. Looking forward to seeing that. Joe, what happened in that house across the street? What was that like? So when the bar closed or the Flora-Bama closed, everybody would go over there? Is that
Well, the house used to be on the Gulf side, which was, and it
okay.
was about 200 yards from the Flora-Bama. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd take 10 cases of beer and a case of wine and 20 or 30 people and go over there and just have music at a very intense, concentrated level for hours. I mean, it just, because the players were playing for each other. It was just that much more intense than just being on the stage. It was just, the players were determined to do their very best as a performing artist for their peers. And I thought it was excellent. It was great to be there.
There was another building on the same side that the house was on, called the Silver Moon for a lot of years, which was kind of an extension almost of the Flora-Bama. And the greatest songwriter show I ever saw in my life was in that building. My mentor and also Songwriter Hall of Fame member Jim McBride and I had played our shows earlier that evening, and we decided to go to the Silver Moon to see Don Wayne, who wrote Country Bumpkin, Danny Dill, who wrote Long Black Veil, Jimmy Payne, who wrote Woman Woman, and Dick Feller, who wrote Eastbound and Down and Some Days Are Diamonds. And I'm telling you that I will never, ever forget every word that was sung that night, every joke that was told. And Jim McBride and I sat there and cried like little girls at moments, and then laughed so hard we couldn't hardly control ourselves. That's what this festival is all about to me, and what it means to me. I've learned the opportunity to get on that stage at the Flora-Bama is almost sacred. And the opportunity to be heard. I do a lot of songwriters festivals. Very few of them have structured their venues to where they actually listen to what we do. And it's just an incredible experience.
Yeah, that's the thing about it, folks. Particularly in that listening room there at the Bama, it's people are engaged. It's not like it's background music or anything like that. It's a real engagement. And had a chance. You mentioned Don Schlitz earlier, who wrote The Gambler among other things and played it here. What was it, a week or two ago? And I mean, just the level of attention that he received from the audience is just phenomenal.
Jeff, I'm humbled to be in the presence of these people that their lives have been so wrapped up in the music business. And Joe does not go around looking for pats on the back. His reward, I think, is being involved like he has. That's been reward enough. But one night I heard Dean Dillon say, I don't know a man on earth that's done more for songwriters than Joe Gilchrist.
Amen.
That coming from Dean Dillon's lips. That says a lot.
How does that make you feel, Joe?
Well, I tried not to miss any fun events. Everybody likes to be respected, but to me, my legacy, to what degree it is that I've helped people meet each other and be nicer to each other and go through life looking for better things out of people instead of negative things out of people. So that's a good way to live.
Jerry, I was going to ask you, when Joe mentioned a few minutes ago about how everybody kind of stepped up their game when they played in front of their peers and whatnot. So when you go play in front of a bunch of other songwriters, are you, I'm sure you've amped up the game, but are you more nervous than if you're just playing in front of an audience of, say, non-songwriters?
Yeah, I'm personally more nervous than I would be in front of, I mean, you'd rather play in front of 50,000 people you don't know than 15 that you really respect and love and that kind of thing. But it is kind of, it is a fun thing because you do want to turn it, depending on who's your audience, you want to play your absolute greatest song, you know what I mean? But it's an interesting opportunity here that we don't always get.
Yeah. I'm curious, once you kind of start writing a song, usually how long does it take you from start to finish?
Oh, geez, Jeff, it's every song is different. Every song is different. I've written songs by myself that have taken me a year to complete because I just know it's not right. I'm still waiting for that one line to come to me. But I've sat down doing co-writing, and we've written hits in 2 or 3 hours, and I've never written anything like in 5 minutes.
Right.
But every song is different. Every song is different. They all kind of come in their own time. I don't like sitting down with somebody and say, hey, we can do this in the next hour, because we may or we may not. It just depends on when it comes.
Larry and Mark Scheller wrote a song during a commercial break during a football game one night called Somebody's Gonna Lose. And it was actually cut several times.
No kidding.
It's a great song.
I haven't been given that gift yet.
I have. We had a chance to talk with Mark a little bit about it, and he actually told that story, talking about how they were back and forth on the phone.
They were on the phone.
That's awesome.
I think Larry was.
They were talking about the football game, and one of them said somebody's going to lose, and they went, woo! And I'm like, and when the football game went off, I got kind of scared that I forgot to pay the cable bill because the fact of Larry stopping during a football game to write a song was unusual, but they did.
That's funny.
That's something. You know, we were talking earlier about various, genres and working with various folks, and Larry worked with, I mean, it ran the gamut. I mean, from Kenny Rogers and Mac Davis to I think Julie Andrews. And
Julie Andrews, Paul Anka, Sammy Davis Jr. And he did cut Hey Won't You Play on every one of them. And it wasn't about the money. He just wanted them to sing his song. I mean, why would you not want Sammy Davis Jr. to sing your song?
Absolutely.
Or Julie Andrews, or And of course, he was also Johnny Cash. He worked for Cash for years too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joe, you were going to say?
Oh, just that I had the pleasure of seeing Sammy Davis perform live about 6 or 7 times out in Vegas and West Coast, and the most phenomenal entertainer you could ever hope to see. Just made you feel like he'd tear his heart out if he could on stage to show his love for what he was doing. Anyway, it was just a flashback to what a true artist can do with music.
Yeah. So speaking of that, and Jerry, and we can all weigh in on this, but can a great singer make an average or subpar song great or a hit?
I think it's the absolute opposite. I think an average singer can take a great song and have a hit.
Yeah.
I really, and maybe I'm just being, because I'm a songwriter and I want to believe that, but there's a lot of great singers and there's a lot of average singers. And I really believe a lot of the people that we know in the music business who have been big stars became stars because of the songs that they recorded. I really believe that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of great singers, don't get me wrong, but I believe an average singer can take a great song and become a star.
And don't you believe the producer comes into play there as well?
Absolutely.
Kenny Rogers did not want to do Lucille, and that was a career record. I mean, he really didn't. You know, Kenny's a great guy, and he's a good song person, but he just didn't really feel the song. And Larry kept saying, "No, I really think you should do this." And they actually cut it in the last 15 minutes of the last session. He goes, "Just give me this."
That's amazing, isn't it?
That's true.
That is amazing. Yeah. But I totally agree with you about that, because you see some folks and you go, well, they're not that great of a singer or that great of a performer or whatever, but the song is really good. It's like we were talking about Offset. There's a fair amount of good singers, fair amount of good guitar players, but not a lot of folks who can just really write well.
Yeah, I mean, it really does begin with a song, and that's look at the people who have had an artist career, who maybe only had one hit. Well, why? Well, because they didn't cut the next. They didn't have a Larry Butler telling them, "This is what you need to do next."
And look how smart George Strait was.
Absolutely, he kept coming back to the same well.
Exactly.
And some artists don't do that.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. You're watching In Studio on WSRE television. We're talking about the Brown International Songwriters Festival as it prepares to celebrate its 35th anniversary. By the way, one of the legends who participated in the festival was Grammy Award-winning producer Larry Butler. And we lost Larry in January of 2012, but his influence and talent still resonates through the music industry. I want to share a clip of Larry from an interview that I did with him back in 2009, as well as some clips from some of his music industry friends talking about his influence on their careers.
Once you learn the golden rule, and that is listen to the song, let the song tell you what it wants. And that's the way I make music. The song is the most important part of the record.
Oh man, he was a salesman and a half, man. Let me tell you, Larry oozed and reeked with charisma. I mean, but he kind of had this grin and this smile like the Grinch. He kind of every time he'd have there was some sharp eyes and something going on behind those eyes, and he'd always had a little wink. You go, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, yeah. And man, it was kind of had that little sly grin like the Grinch, man. That's what I always liked about him. You just knew there was so much behind that smile, and of course, everybody knows a huge heart behind that.
Without Larry Butler in my career, I probably wouldn't have had near the career that I do have. As a matter of fact, he he recorded a song that I wrote, Old Red, which was a hit by Blake Shelton, on Kenny Rogers long before anybody else ever did. So he's been a big influence in my life and my career. Writing with Larry, if you was kind of new at it, when I first got to work with him, it was, my mouth just dropped open, because I'd struggle over, play it for him, and he'd fix it just like that. I said, how do you do that? He said, I'm just good.
One of the most positive people I've ever been around. I never saw him be, down about anything. He was always very positive and uplifting and always had hope. He was a guy of hope.
That was a really neat experience, having an opportunity to talk to some of those guys, and wow, that says an awful lot about him. I mean, just them talking about him and the respect they had.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
An encourager. He was
Hey, we went to high school together.
You and Larry?
How old I am. He ended up going to Escambia after in the 11th, 12th grade, and I stayed at Pensacola High, but we met each other some in junior high. Of course, Larry at the time was already working as a professional DJ, and he was on the Lynn Tony show, so he was like showbiz already.
You talk a little bit about that, the Lynn Tony show, because a lot of people, if you mention Larry, they'll go, oh yeah, I remember him when he was just a little guy doing that.
I later in life, I look back and I think that the poor guy, what he went through. Lynn Tony weighed about 90 pounds, wore a leopard skin suit. And by then, they also had a guy named Leroy involved who weighed almost 500 pounds and wore overalls. And Larry was a little skinny, pimply-faced kid in high school playing the piano with him. And it was just, he was thrown into this kind of mix of characters and did well. In fact, Alva, his sister, would occasionally come and sing.
And didn't they have kids that would get on the show?
They had kids in the audience. I mean, they'd have a little thing where kids would come in the afternoon. It was kind of like the Howdy Doody show and that kind of stuff in that sense.
Yeah, that was many years ago, and that was on for those folks who were, longtime Northwest Florida residents. But it was on Channel 3, the ABC affiliate here back in the day, and folks who many people would remember that. I mean, it was a little bit before my time, but I had people over the years, talk about that. Was
a few of us ancient people might still be around.
Jeff, parting comment. Joe says often, music makes the world a better place.
Yeah.
Truer words were never spoken.
Yeah, I agree. We touched a little bit about the fund. Peggy, how'd you come up with that idea? What made you want to do that about the fund at UWF?
Actually, Collier Merrill was very instrumental in getting Larry an honorary doctor's degree at UWF. So that's why I chose UWF. And just wanting to give back and to do something positive. And so the Foo Festival had started, and we got a grant to do the first show at the Pensacola Theater, which was Don Slitz. And that's a great theater, but what was so, I vividly remember sitting there going, someday I got to have him in the main room at the Flora-Bama though, because I also knew that would be such a great venue for him. So, I mean, nothing better than raising money for the arts with the arts.
Absolutely. And pretty much every year, like you do a special performance, you have somebody
it's always songwriters, yes. We just did a show at Vinyl Music Hall.
Saturday night?
It was just Saturday night, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And we had, who all do we have?
J.T. Harding, Lindsay Rhymes, and John Knight. Very.
And it was really good, and everybody had a really good time. And it also, bringing it into town, it educates people what we're doing. But we've had Hall of Fame writers, we've had the current writers, we've had just great people. Dean Dillon played vinyl last November and did it. And it was, only Dean could play a venue that big and you could hear a pin drop. It was amazing, yeah.
And this is something you want to continue to grow and
yes.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping to do something next year very special called, it would be Songwriters in Symphony. I want to have 3 hit songwriters and the Pensacola Symphony behind them.
Oh, that would be absolutely awesome. That would be really, really cool. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you had talked about earlier just all the students that, you know, have dreams of being in the music business or whatever, and the fund helping them and giving them opportunities and stuff. And I know that, because we've talked offset about this, but I know one of the things that you guys all want to do is have this festival become more than just a festival, but also just make an impact in the community of helping people. And
certainly our outreach to the community is important. I know it means the world to Joe, and I'm just I'm proud and pleased to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah. What they're doing is critical, because I think most folks, or at least parents, realize this. When I was growing up, we were all growing up, we had music teachers in our schools. We would have music. That would be one of our things we went to do. There are very, very few, if any, music teachers left in schools until you get to high school. Right. You have your orchestra and your band. But I'm talking about elementary, man. When I was in elementary school, we had music teachers. Most school systems, at least where I live, there aren't anymore. So what they're doing and the kind of programs that the money they're raising allows to happen is critical to encourage young people to want to pursue any kind of career in music.
And we were talking about the youth showcase earlier and the fact that they played in front of their peers. So Andy, talk a little bit about that, because you guys actually bring in other high school or I guess maybe middle school students to watch the young folks play.
Well, we invite, the one we've been staging in Baldwin County, we invite all the middle schools and all the high schools, and we've had as many as 350 kids attend the sessions over the years. We're just in the process of developing the youth showcase here in Pensacola. As you witnessed with your daughter over there going to the Wine and Gulf Shores, we want to put on two so we can reach more people.
Right.
But it has been a matter of Gulf Shores up until now, and we invite, I think there's 7 high schools over here in Escambia County. They and all the middle schools as well will be invited to the next one. We also do scholarships for college-bound high school seniors in both Baldwin County and Escambia County. And we ask for them to submit essays to tell us about the role that music plays in their lives and what they see it, how they see it shaping their future. And we get these essays and we read these essays, and I've told Joe time and again, I wish we had the money to give every one of these kids, you know, that we could fund every one of their educations, and unfortunately we can't, but maybe with the help of the community we can do more things along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. How does someone get involved if they want to know about that? For example, the youth showcase, how would they find out more about that?
The information is on our website, frankbrownsongwriters.com.
Okay, and I'm just curious, I mean, obviously it's a no-brainer when you invite the Dean Dillons of the world and the Jerry Salleys of the world to come down, but if you have some up-and-comer songwriter that is interested in playing at the Frank Brown International Songwriters, so how do they go about trying to get in front of you?
At the first of the year on our website, we put an Apply to Play tab.
Okay.
And we take all those submissions, and then we have a committee that sits down, and we have some folks that are grandfathered in, but what we try to do is be respectful of all the people that have supported the festival all these years, and Joe's particularly particular about that. And but then we try to introduce and encourage new folks as well. But I will tell you that is the toughest part of putting on the festival, because we had over 500 applications this year with 200 slots to play. And it breaks my heart. I want to tell them all to come and play.
Right. What have you noticed, and I'll just throw this up to the whole table, what have you noticed over the years of how the writers have changed and how the songs have changed? What's different about, say, the late 70s, the 80s, and even in the early 90s compared to what you're seeing today?
Well, we were very fortunate at a point when the Songwriters Festival was growing that we met some of the very best creators of music in the world. You know, Hank Cochran, Mickey Newberry, Red Lane had 40-something cuts with Merle Haggard. I mean, these are standard writers that were so special. And through time, many of those are no longer with us. So the whole idea was to always be constantly reaching out to people that are learning to be writers and to people that have achieved some commercial success. But anyway, we started off with so many great players, including a lot of our local players. So he's had to keep up with the evolving circumstances of different people no longer coming down here and new people getting them involved. So it's a challenge.
Styles changed a little bit over the years.
Yeah, it has. That's probably why I do a lot more bluegrass these days than I do country, because we still write a lot of story songs, and they still do that in country, but the craft has changed quite a bit, and the styles have changed. I'm not, we'll be honest about it. I was listening to some John Denver last night, and I thought, wow, that's more country than some of today's country really is. But it's good. It's just a different kind of good. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
The craft has changed. The way I would craft a lyric or tell a story is different from the standpoint of the way the music is played. You know what I mean? It's more. It can be. Some people call it hip hop or pop. The way that they phrase things in the country songs can be different. And I say that, and then you can go listen to Chris Stapleton, and he'll write a song or record a song that could have been written 20 years ago. So some things stay the same.
Or Dean's song was written 30 years ago.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. I was very fortunate to have a song on that album with Dean. I wrote a song with Chris called "Outlaw State of Mind" that is on his Traveler album. And Chris's take on the George hit that Chris recorded. I mean, that was like a brand new. There were new fans to that song that had never heard that song before in their life.
It'd be interesting to see as time rolls around if maybe some of these old classic songs might get recut by some modern day artists.
It happens to some degree.
Sure does.
All the time, and has happened to some degree through the last 50 years. Let's face it, there were people doing music 50 years ago that became more popular again 20 years ago. It just cycles.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
And the Tennessee Whiskey thing, I can't tell you the people that had never heard that song in their life until Chris recorded it.
Amazing.
He did a great job recording it.
He did.
What you look for is an artist that interprets the emotions that the original songwriters has. That's when we said earlier, a lot of times the original writer creates a much more emotional image when he sings it. But if you get somebody that really nails it.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that's cool about this festival is that you get to hear the writer sing it the way he wrote it. And you feel what he felt as he wrote it.
This has been awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival, November 7th
through 17th.
Awesome. Celebrating 35 years this year. That's what we've been talking about on this edition of inStudio, the Frank Brown International Songwriters Festival. Our guests have been Peggy Butler, Andy Haynes, Joe Gilchrist, and Jerry Salley. The show will be online soon at WSRE.org as well as on YouTube, so please feel free to share all over the social media landscape. I'm Jeff Weeks. I certainly hope you enjoyed this broadcast. Take wonderful care of yourself. We're going to close this out with our old friend Larry Butler with a song he co-wrote with Chips Moman, made famous by B.J. Thomas. Hey, won't you play another Somebody Done Somebody Wrong song?
It's lonely out tonight, and the feeling just got right for a brand new love song. Somebody done somebody wrong song. So hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong song? Make me feel at home while I miss my baby. I miss my baby. So please play for me a sad melody, so sad that it makes everybody cry. A real hurting song about love that's gone wrong, 'cause I don't wanna cry all alone. So hey, won't you play another somebody done somebody wrong? Thank you. And make me feel at home while I miss my baby. I miss my baby. I miss my baby while I miss my baby.